Welcome to Cooking Up Some History. Each week during the holiday season, we're going to be rating the Chester County History Center Library's old cookbooks and giving their vintage recipes our best shot. The successes, the flops, and all. Today we're making a caramel cake inspired by a 1902 Berwyn, Pennsylvania recipe. When cake wasn't just dessert, it was a reward, a celebration, and sometimes even a moral lesson. In Chester County newspapers, cake shows up as poetry, persuasion, and proof that good behavior deserves something sweet. In one early 19th century column from The Record, cake is literally used as a tool to manage children's behavior. In the story, a boy named Tom ignores his mother's warnings, breaks a clock, gets punished, and then is immediately given a piece of cake to stop his crying. The moral? The cake was seen as a reward, a consolation, and a way to reinforce lessons about obedience and character. So cake wasn't just a treat, it was a part of early child rearing philosophy: sugar, discipline, comfort, and repeat. And then there's also cake as public ritual. In an 1809 piece titled Liberty and Equality, cake appears at a civic gathering, a shared cake at table meant to symbolize harmony, hospitality, and shared values in the early republic. Cake wasn't just for home kitchens, it showed up in moments of politics, principle, and performance. So when we make a cake like this from an old Chester County tradition, we're not just baking dessert, we're stepping into a world where cake meant joy, comfort, poetry, discipline, and community, sometimes all in the same bite. Now, let's get started. Here's everything we're going to need, and honestly, who would have thought such a simple old recipe could take up this much room on a counter? Preheat your oven to 350 degrees and grease two 8-inch cake pans. Make sure you're covering the sides and in the corners. Once they're well greased, sprinkle in a little flour and tap the pan like this to coat it evenly. Now for the batter. Cream the butter first, then slowly add the sugar. Beat it until it's pale and fluffy. This step really sets the texture of the cake. We're going to need 2 eggs at room temperature. Add them in one at a time, beating well after each, and then add your vanilla in. In a separate bowl, whisk together your flour, baking powder, and salt. Now alternate adding the dry ingredients and the milk to the batter. A little dry, a little milk, and repeat. Slow and steady wins the race here. Divide the batter evenly between your pans and use a spoon to gently smooth the tops, kind of barely touching it. If you press too hard, you're going to undo all that good work. We want to get it as flat as we possibly can. Once that's ready, go ahead and bake them about 355 degrees for, it took us about 25 to 30 minutes. To check and see if they're done, you can insert a toothpick into the center of the cake, and if it comes out clean and there's no dough sticking to it or batter, it's ready. We then flip them over onto a wire rack for the fastest cooling, and we put parchment paper on top so the cake wouldn't catch on the rack. While they're cooling, we can go ahead and start with the caramel filling here. And a quick note, in the original recipe, we ended up doubling the filling and topping. We found that as we were decorating the cake later, we weren't getting quite as much coverage as we were hoping. Now, melt your butter in a saucepan over low and medium heat. Even though the original recipe calls for burnt sugar, we don't want to really scorch anything here, so we use brown sugar instead. But if you want to go for that authentic burnt sugar historical accuracy, that just means melting plain sugar in a pan until it's deeply brown on low and slow heat. If you don't want brown sugar or burnt sugar, you can also add a little molasses for depth. Stir in the brown sugar in the cream, then let it simmer for 5 to 7 minutes until it thickens. Take it off the heat, stir in your vanilla and a pinch of salt here. Let it cool slightly, and this part's optional, but we slowly sort of sifted in some powdered sugar at the end and whisked it until it reached like a frosting consistency, and that really worked well for us. Once your frosting is done, make sure your cake is completely cool, because if you try to spread this on there and it's still warm, it's going to fall apart. So you really want it room temperature. But now for the final result. Oh boy, is this thing sweet. Probably because we covered the entire surface in frosting, and traditionally some of the cakes from this time often just frosted the top layer and left the sides bare. That's more of an aesthetic choice if you want nowadays. But we figured it's the holidays and we're going all out here. The cake itself came out perfectly tender and the icing is intense, but if you've got a serious sweet tooth, this one absolutely delivers. It paired great with some vanilla ice cream. That's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos in this series. See you next time, and thanks for watching.